Don Williams, welcome back to the Soccer Queens podcast again.
Hey, Erica.
How's your
Good.
summer going?
How's my summer going? A lot of yard work. A lot of yard work. Yeah,
Sounds
but
like you're
I'm
keeping
enjoying it.
busy. Well, I know June 15th is around the corner for college coaches to start contacting players. Is this a busy time for you at all, or is it more like kind of just laid back?
No, it doesn't do anything more or less. June 15th doesn't mean anything to us or our clients really necessarily. Yeah, June 15th. I heard a college coach say the other day that, and this was a mid-major D1. We were having a conversation. He said, they're always tracking about 1,000 players. Through all the freshman class, sophomore, there's always a couple hundred players in every class that they're tracking. And so, June 15th is just another, it's a day allowable, and it only really affects the girls' side area. It doesn't really affect the boys' side at all. This is a girls' phenomenon thing. It is because girls are in shorter supply than the boys are. So all the schools are chasing those kids that really like the top kids. But yeah, it doesn't really affect us.
Real quick for the players when June 15th rolls around and maybe like a few days has gone by and they haven't gotten any college coaches reaching out to them, what would you say to them?
Sure, you got 2 years to go. I'm not sure how fast we want to grow up and how fast we're anxious to be out of the house and have this commitment done and over with. But this is not a commitment. This isn't something to get over with. Like all these kids say, I just want recruited. I just want commit. I just want the recruiting process over with. I just want it finished. It's part of the journey. I'm not sure why kids aren't enjoying it more. I'm not sure why they don't enjoy getting to know more coaches, why they just want to grab onto a school and a coach and commit to that school so fast so that they never have to talk to another coach again. Getting to know other people is a big pleasure of growing up and getting and becoming an adult and getting to talk to other people, getting to visit other new places, new schools. Just enjoy the process to try to find. It's like hating dating. Like somebody saying, "I can't wait till I never have to date ever." At 16 years old, 17 years old, I hope I never have to date and I can just get married tomorrow. I don't ever want to date. It's like, are you kidding? That's part of life. It's part of the enjoyment of growing up is getting to meet other people and figure out what's right for you and what's right for your life. So I don't get this obsession with used to be eighth graders, ninth graders, 10th graders committing. Now NCAA at least put some sanity to it. That's June 15th after your sophomore year committing. But why are we in such a hurry, and don't we understand, after watching all the coaches' movements all these years, every year, year after year, that there's a really good percentage that the coach that committed to you and you committed to them and you guys like each other and you want to build a relationship with each other for 4 years is not going to be is not, this deal's never going to happen. Coach is going to leave and the new coach is going to want to reassess the situation. I, or giving yourself room to change your mind as a person. What if you visit another school and you like that one better? Or what if your friend starts going to a school and they start telling you about it? A friend, older friend than you, and maybe you like that school better. And now there's no room to change your mind, except there is, right? I mean, kids, the attitude nowadays, Erica, seems to be commitment doesn't mean anything. Stop it. Don't be silly. Coaches and players, commitment doesn't mean anything. I don't know why we're all in such a hurry to grow up as fast as we possibly can and get on with our adult lives. But this is where we're at.
Well, let's speak to that a little bit more. I wanted to describe some common scenarios and conversations I've been having with players and parents of ECNL girls from all over. People DM me on Instagram and Twitter all the time. I've just been seeing this a lot lately that girls will be in like their junior year or going into that senior fall and they're freaking out, they're not committed yet, everyone else is committing, and they're like, "We're in ECNL, we're on the best team in our state. Why aren't D1 schools chasing us down? Why are we not committed yet?" Like, I thought this was gonna happen quicker being on ECNL, and I just want to have a very transparent conversation because I don't think a lot of these ECNL girls are being told the truth about college recruiting and expectations and how not everyone is going to make it. Not everyone is going to play top 25 D1. So let's get into that conversation because sadly, the transparency is just not happening within clubs now, and parents aren't being educated on this process enough.
How many ECNL teams are there even? Do we know?
They're adding so many every year. Oh my gosh. Well, Florida, let me think about Florida. So we have, I think, 2 in the Tampa area, Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami. There's a lot in Florida, like a handful, that I can come off of the top of my head with here. We're
Um,
looking it up, everyone, for everyone listening in, but this
so
is going to
yeah,
be crucial.
I think it's saying there's 151 boys teams and 128 girls teams.
Yep, sounds
I
about
just
right.
Googled it and it just came up. So if that's correct, let's just assume that's correct because it really doesn't matter. Times 18. So that's 2,000 female players. We'll just stay on the girls' side for now. That's 2,000 female players. I'd imagine GA's got to be somewhere like another, I don't know. Let's say it's just another thousand. Let's say it's another thousand. That's 3,000 kids. And I'm sure it's more than that. Maybe it's 4,000. Call it 4,000. In college soccer, there's approximately 1,600 girls teams, and there's approximately, let's call it 8 players in each class. That's 816. That's 32 players on the roster. I think that sounds pretty normal. Times 8. So in a class, that's 12,000 available spots. So I guess I could understand if there's 12,000 available roster spots for girls, and even if there's 15,000, it doesn't really matter. And there's only 4,000 kids playing in ECNL GA. I guess these parents are wondering, they think that 100% of the kids should get picked up, maybe?
Mm.
I don't know. Look, here's part. There are a series of problems here. At the biggest event I've ever been to in the whole nation, in any given year, there might be 400 coaches there. Let's say there's 500 coaches there. That's fine. Understand that of those 500 coaches, there's a lot of staffs that are doubled up. You've got 2 or 3 assistants covering one event. So how many schools are actually there? It can't be more than 300. Can't be more than 300 schools out of 1,600. So that's 1,300 schools that were not at that event. And then you go to the West Coast, and maybe there's 1,300 schools that aren't at that event. But some of those kids saw the kids at the East Coast event. And, up in Seattle, there's probably going to be 150, 200 schools max that are up at the national championships up in Seattle. So, when you're a coach who's got 200 or 300 eyes watching at any one time 200 or 300 kids, that's it. It's all we can. You can't study. Nobody in the world I've ever met is good enough to sit down and catalog 22 players playing at the same time, right? Oh, that's what that center back's doing. Not what that forward doing. This is what they're doing off the ball, on the ball, here, there. This is the kind of movements that they make. This is the kind of marking that they do. This is what they do here and there. It's like you can only do maybe a couple of players at a time. So you tend to take teams and you break them down. So the best team in the country, you'll break down. First, you go after the top 2 or 3. If you're one of the top schools in the country, first you're going after the top 2 or 3 players on that team. Then maybe you're seeing if there's second tier, if there's anything in there and you missed, and everybody else you go, not for me, because I've seen that team play enough times. Nobody really stands out. And then another tier of coach will come in and pick over that same team and kind of do it. And it tends to be that the top 20 teams in the nation have a lot of traction. And there's clubs that bring in coaches to their camp, to their practices, and have them in regularly, especially in the East Coast, Erica, more than on the West Coast, just because there's so many schools in such a tight area. You can get 30 schools within 10 miles of practice, so they can sneak down. So those are the top teams. Now we've got a lot of teams in the country that are fifth place, seventh place, eighth place, whatever, in their group, not even making it to the national championships, not that good. They've got one or two players that are going to get picked off of those teams. So they're just the better players. And then everybody else is like, okay, their second tier isn't that good, maybe. And they kind of go, and then you've got the bottom teams where she's good, but the rest of them aren't very good. So you've got teams broken down into these categories, these youth teams with the top teams with a bunch of top players, middle teams with a couple top players, and the rest of them are okay. And then the bottom teams with one or maybe one or two top players, and the rest of them aren't very good. And that's ECNL, ECRL, it's GA, it's MLS Next on the boys' side. It's everything. It's look, it just replicates every league you've ever seen in your world in your life, right? The worst teams don't have that many good players. The better teams have a lot more players that are better. And so these coaches go, these kids, these parents go through this process. And if their kid's not the cream of the crop somewhere up in there, yes, it's going to be harder to figure out what the right fit is. In addition to that, most kids are just all writing the same schools. I'd say 80% of every list that I've ever seen from any kid anywhere in the country is the same names of schools over and over and over. So we've got 1,600 schools, yet only 50 are appearing on 80% of the lists for everywhere in the country. We're just going to ignore the other 1,550. Never mind the fact that statistically, I don't know, you're way smarter than I am, but statistically, doesn't the other 1,550 hold the right fit rather than just the 50 for any individual at any time? I would say that if we take a larger sample size, the odds are better that the right fit is in there than if we take the smaller sample size. And so, what do parents do? They almost like they're kids, and they almost like they're trying to work the system. They will list three D3s in there, but they will be John Hopkins, Amherst, and whatever, Bowdoin, Williams. They'll pick the top academic schools in the world, right? And those will be, well, those are my D3 samplings. And then I'll do the same thing for D2. I'll pick the national champion, and I'll pick, Embry Riddle because it's a great aeronautical institute, hard to get into, and my kid's an engineering kid or whatever. And I'll pick two or three of the cream of the crop D3s, D2s in the country. Then maybe I'll throw an NAIA in there, but I probably won't. And then I'll throw in 20 of the top D1s in the country, and I'll say, well, I casted a broad net across D1, D2, and D3, and I don't understand why I'm not being contacted. It's because they're picking the schools D3 and D2 that are small, that are hard to get into, And those coaches of the schools that are hard to get into, the John Hopkins of the world does not have a lack of students. Some of them play baseball, some of them play softball, some of them play soccer, some don't play anything, but they don't have a lack of students coming to them to say, I want to come to your school, no matter what. I will pay for your school. I want to be at Johns Hopkins just because of its academic reputation. So it's not like those schools need players. They need players that can get into their school, that can actually play. But it's not like they have a lack of those players contacted. So I think that what happens is it comes down to the old thing that I talk about a lot is that we have a lot of players chasing the wrong schools. So it's not like coaches don't want ECNL players if you're an ECNL player who's not getting contacted. It's that you're chasing the wrong schools for your abilities in total. It can be academic abilities, it can be financial abilities, it can be soccer abilities. It could be social abilities, how you get along with other people, how you present yourself to others. It could be a very myriad of.
Don, my question is, why are these players chasing the wrong school? So you said most girls have like very similar lists. Is it because they're not being like told the truth about the level they can play at, whether that's from like their club coach or the club in general? Is it just like an overall lack of education? Are they not getting out to watch the college games to see if they can play at that level? Like, what is it? Because I'm actually in agreement with you that a lot of girls I talk to, it's the same list every time. It's UNC, Stanford, UCLA, then the D3s are the same. Johns Hopkins, University of Washington, Messiah, like all the powerhouses. And yeah, everyone just has that same list. And there's only maybe 6 to 10 spots per class, would you say, like per school?
Yeah, for 500,000 kids around the world. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, what's going on here? Like, are girls just told, "Hey, you deserve this school," and they're being lied to, or you're on this top team and you deserve to be at a top 25 D1? Like, what's I just don't get what's going on because not all these girls are being realistic with it, and not everyone's going to play at a top 25 D1.
yeah, and I think it's a couple. It's a conglomeration of a lot of the things that you mentioned. It is 100% club coaches not being honest with kids about their abilities. 100%. Not even within their own team, they're not even being honest with their kids and their own abilities. So they'll tell the kids how no, I really appreciate you. You're getting better. Keep working hard. It's a lot of bloated generalizations, and the kid still is only getting 6 minutes each half. So they aren't even being honest about their kids in their own environment. And then it doesn't really behoove a club coach to tell a kid that they can't play at North Carolina. It's not my business to tell them no. How is it my business? I'm not on staff. Only that staff can decide yes or no. And so just go to the North Carolina camp. Go to the North Carolina. Just keep writing the coaches. Just keep contacting them. Maybe they know about you. Maybe they're interested. Just keep contacting them. And then multiply that times all of the other schools that are on a kid's list. It's either that coach doesn't know college soccer and they don't know the level of the players that they are telling that kid, yeah, it's not my business to tell you you can't play there. Or they're being dishonest, maybe, I don't know. Or they have some ulterior motive for wanting these kids to to like them and to stay with them and to not leave their club, because there are parents out there that if you tell your kid, you tell my kid they can't play at North Carolina just because you don't believe in my kid. Why don't you believe in my kid? I'm paying you to believe in my kid. And they'll just go to another club who tells them what they want to hear. And there's a lot of club hopping. So that's one reason. I think that's part of it. I think another reason is, like you said, they haven't seen the teams play. And if they have, it's on a computer screen. And it just doesn't relay well to a person watching something on a computer screen as it does when you're standing on the sidelines and you see a kid zip past you and you go, yeah, I don't know many guys that could keep it. And it just doesn't relay on a computer screen, I think, right as well. So even if they're watching, I'm not sure they're absorbing. And then I don't think a lot of people in general, not just soccer players, are very self-aware. I don't think they understand what their weaknesses are. I don't think they really want to know, and I don't think they really want to understand. Don't really want to grasp that they're not the best at something. We all want to be told we're the best at this or we're the best at that,
Mm.
and it feels good for a moment. If it's true, it's great. But if it's not true, then you told me I was the best, and yet none of the rewards are coming of what it means to be the best. And
And
so,
they're spending time chasing that school where they're told, "Hey, you can definitely go here and play here." So they chase and chase for all those months during the recruiting process, only to not have a commitment by the time push comes to shove and you're a senior. And now you're in full-blown panic mode and you're like, "Wait a minute, like, now where do I go? Are you actually telling me that I belong at a D2 or D3? Are those my only options left?" And that's where I see a lot of players getting to because they're not told honestly up front, "Hey, you should chase these schools instead of these schools." But people are just wasting their time. and
And
it's just
money.
heartbreaking, and
And time
money.
is
Yeah,
money, right?
and
If
money.
parents are taking time off to travel, that's money, that's vacation time, and,
Mm,
there's kids spending 10, $12,000 a year with no results on just camps, just chasing the wrong camps,
mm,
and it's yeah, I think that Nick, I think it was Shakespeare that said, "Know thyself," and I really think it's important that as a parent and a child, that you guys sit down together, have an honest conversation of, what does it look like for you if you are in a small town of 700 people in school and you're 2 hours away from the biggest city? Does that fit you well? What does it look like if you're in a small school of 1,700, but you're in a big city like Pittsburgh? Does that fit you well? Does it have to be a bigger school? What would you be missing out on if you weren't at a bigger school? What would be the downsides? What would you be missing out on? And I think these kids, a lot of them, I want to be at the basketball games and the football games. You don't understand that you have a lifestyle. Number one, soccer goes on during the football season. Good luck finding time, right? And then at the end of soccer season is basketball, and then spring starts up, and it's like you're not going to have as much free time as you think you're going to have to go do all of these things that you think you want to do. And by the way, it's okay, Erica, to say, those things to me are more important than soccer. I'm going to go to school and do those things. Join a sorority. I'm going to go to football games. I'm going to do the whole college experience and not play a sport. It's okay to say that. Please. I had a girl on the phone asked for her dad to be dismissed from the room and wanted to talk to me alone. Said, I don't know how to tell my dad I don't want to play soccer anymore. She was a sophomore in high school. She's already burnt out. And her dad's just pushing, pushing, pushing. What about college? What about college? You're too good. You put in too much time and effort and energy. You should want to play in college. But I don't want to. And I think there's a lot of kids that are going to listen to this, a lot of ECNL kids, they're done. They're done. You can tell they're done.
Done. As you were speaking there, I've heard that scenario over and over again, where the parent thinks the girl is going to go play in college, and by the time she turns 17 years old and it's time to go, she's like, "I'm done. I don't wanna do this anymore." And they are floored that the girl wants to quit. I've heard this over and over again. It's shocking, it's heartbreaking, it's frustrating, it could be really frustrating for a parent, like, but by that time, the girl's just like, "No, this isn't for me."
Which is okay. That's what youth
Yeah.
is about. Youth is about figuring out what is for you and what isn't for you. And just because something was a big part of your life for a while in your life doesn't mean that it has to be a big part of your life for the rest of your life.
And that it was a waste. It's
It
not a
just wasn't
waste.
a waste.
Yeah,
Yes, it wasn't a
exactly.
waste.
Not a waste at all. I mean, even all, like, the time and investment, I mean, did she get better as an athlete? Did she make new friends? Did she get to travel? Did she have a good coach and role model? I mean, there's so many other benefits when you look back on this journey, and even Steve Rowlands talked about it before on my show last month about Gabby's experience playing ECNL and how she really enjoyed it, became a better athlete and player, and learned the game, and there's just so many other benefits to look at as well, and I don't think it's a failure if a girl quits and doesn't commit to a college. That's not a failure to me. I mean, there's so many other things that we can look at from this and be like, "Wow, that was quite a ride. That was an adventure, and it was worth going on."
Absolutely. And I just want my kid happy. It's all I ever wanted as a parent was my kid to be happy. I don't care what they do. I always told my kids, you just don't sit around and do nothing in life. Don't be a potato, but go out and do something. And if you're doing that, I don't care what you do. And I understand, however, why parents feel the way they do, how they get so tied into their kids without even realizing that they're tied into their kids, that they've got because they've got friends on their kids' teams. When they go to tournaments, the parents are often having dinner and having drinks together when the kids go to bed and meet and talking, and they become friends and they talk on the sidelines, and they know what each other do for a living. And so these parents have their own social life that's also wrapped up in their kids And it's hard for any person to let that stuff go, knowing it's probably gone forever and those friendships may be gone. And it's hard. So I am empathetic and sympathetic, having been there myself. However, we have to remind ourselves as parents that this is not about me. It never was about me. It was always about what's best for my child, and it's always about what's for my what brings happiness to my child, and how my child grows up, and what my child learns, and the values and the lessons that I want my child to get that sports happens to provide for them is so much more valuable than any return on investment in form of a scholarship or that's all or social media status ROI. It's like, oh man, I got 100 likes on that one. That was a big one. And it's like at the end of the day, tomorrow it's a new news cycle and nobody cares. And now you have to live with your decision for the rest of your life, which is why anytime anybody ever comes to me and says, why can't I get D1 interest schools interested in me or what, it's like, why are you talking about D1? Don't you, shouldn't it be why can't I find, the question should be why can't I find the school that's the right fit for me to be interested in?
And to be able to continue their playing career for another 4 years. Sometimes it's compromising on those schools that weren't on your list so that you can still continue to play the sport that you love and not have to close that chapter quite yet. So that's also something to think about for the girls who are really set on, I wanna continue, I wanna keep playing in college, and I can't imagine not doing this for 4 more years. So in that scenario, then maybe some compromises might have to be made because that's going to be the difference between you continuing or not continuing your playing career.
I've said before with you, Erica, that I always think of this as decision making process is a series of tick boxes, right? So, finances, does this meet my finances? Does this meet my academics? Does this meet my whatever? And it's always a series of tick boxes, but they're weighted. They're weighted. So, for me, for my son, academics was weighted 20% out of 100. Wasn't like we knew it would come. It's like my degrees here on my wall. It came. It it got done. Maybe you've never heard of the school. Does it really matter? It got me the job that I needed it to get me, and it gave me enough of the educational base that I was able to be competent in that job and then learn while I was on the job. What else are we looking for? I mean, this magical idea that everything is going to be perfect in my life and I'll have everything that I ever dreamed of and wanted, and this is the way my life is going to go is fairy tale fantasy stuff. What kind of a world are we living in that we think that fairy tales are real? It's you can't have everything. You can't live on the beach in California playing D1 all 4 years, $100,000 NIL coming to you, and then winning a national championship and do that all 4 years, and then I'm gonna play pro, and then Arsenal's gonna hire me to coach the women's team, and then this is the way my career is gonna go, and it actually goes that way? It's like how many people in the history of humankind have ever laid out their life and had it actually go that way with no hiccups. It's just not how life generally works. So, getting our kids to understand that you may have to sacrifice this to get this. Is this more important to you than that? Yes, that's more important. Okay, then good. Then this really isn't that important to you. You can have this, but you have to sacrifice this. And you can have what you need in order to be successful. You may not get everything that you ever wanted and dreamed of, but you can get what you need, is the message that I just want parents and kids to hear. And I want them to understand that this is not, it's just not possible for most of us to chase everything that we ever wanted and have no obstacles.
Yeah, and I think with ECNL, I mean, we all can agree that the showcases get amazing exposure from all the top Division 1 schools, D2, D3. It's incredible, and we can't deny that, but our point in this conversation is we don't want girls to feel entitled to certain things because your coach is telling you that you deserve this, because not everyone is going to have that perfect journey and go exactly where they want and go to every school on their list, and they're going to become chasing you down and knocking on your door. That's a very small percentage of girls who are in the ECNL, and we kind of talked about this before, but let's go into the difference between a girl who's on a top ECNL team who's playing like 10 minutes a game as opposed to like a starter playing the full game, and just how it's just a very different situation. Like just because you have a roster spot on ECNL like doesn't mean like things are going to happen for you with like certain schools.
I need to see you play. That's what the coach is going to say. I need to see you play. And if I'm seeing you play 10 minutes and then 20 minutes in the second half, and we all know how this game goes. Sometimes the ball doesn't flow into your area of the fields while you're on the field. The average player only touches the ball in a 90-minute game. What's the figure? 3 minutes? Something like that. Maybe it's less than that, but it's not very much. So in a 90-minute game, let's say it's 3 minutes, average player only touches the ball. What are the odds of how many times you're going to touch the ball in playing 20 minutes a game? It just makes it harder to evaluate. So if I'm a college coach out evaluating a player who's playing 20 minutes a game, I'm going to tell them, if you really want to come to my school, you're probably going to have to come to my camp where I can see you play consistently for 2 or 3 days in a row. It's hard to get a sense of you seeing you play for 20 minutes here and 20 minutes there. Now, if you're a starter and you're playing every minute of every game, it's easier for me to assess you, but it is a rub. We've gotten ourselves in between a rock and a hard place. Um, let's just assume and say that ECNL, I think it is, probably the top women's league in the country, girls' league in the country. Um, so am I better off playing 15 minutes, 20 minutes a half, 2 minutes a half for that team? Or am I better off playing for Northern California Premier League team and playing all of the time? But then the coaches aren't there. I understand. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this experience to play in college? Or are you doing this experience because you like to play soccer? Why are you doing this? I think a lot of kids are doing this because they want to play in college, which tells me they don't even like soccer that much. If you're not doing this because you like to play soccer and because you want to play soccer, and you're only doing it for that external motivated thing that may or may not happen of playing in college, and that's the only reason you're doing it, what are you doing? Go do something else you love more. Maybe it's music, maybe it's art, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's video games. I don't know. Go do something else you love more, where you're doing it because you want to do that thing. In this case, soccer. I want to play soccer. I do not want to sit on the bench. My experience I was such a horrible teammate when it come to playing and not playing. If I was playing, I was a great teammate. If I wasn't playing, I was a horrible person. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to play. So for me to play in the top league in the country, but never get to play that much, not really help the team. I'm not really helping. I go in and I fill in when somebody needs to come off. It's not like I'm really helping that much. I don't want to be in that environment as a player. I'd be miserable. I want to be in an environment where the team needs me, where I'm wanted, where I feel like I'm needed, where I feel like I'm part of the group. I always say go where you're wanted. I'm not just talking about college people. Go where you're wanted, as it's life. It's a life advice. Go where you're wanted. You shouldn't have to beg people to marry you, beg people to date you, beg people to take you on as a job, as an employer, beg people to do things for you. You're down on your hands and knees groveling all the time, begging people to take you, begging people to allow you. What kind of a lesson is this in life? What are we doing to our psyche? What kind of a person are we creating where they're just constantly begging people to love them? I think it's insanity. And I think it's carrying over to social media. I think that people think when they get likes that it equals love. Does not equal love. They don't really know who you are. They don't really care about you. Something could happen to you tomorrow. Maybe there'll be a one-day post. I'm sorry this person died, but then they'll never think of you again. Unless you're not talking about your parents. your grandparents. I'm talking about social media people.
Like strangers on the internet.
I'm about strangers on the internet
People
who
just
they
move on,
listen.
and the next day is the next day, and whatever's posted is like, "Oh, like, this is interesting." It just goes on. It's crazy.
Literally, Erica, how narcissistic do we have to be to people think that people actually care when literally there can be a shooting today and we all blow up about it, and in 2 days try to find anything posted about it. 2 days when people died. 2 days, hundreds of people maybe died in a war. Or this, we talk about it for a day, and then we move on to the next thing. The news cycle's gotten so much shorter. So who do we think is? Are we that narcissistic that we think that everybody cares about what happens to me? It's not that way. So I just want kids looking at what the right fit is to carry them on with life. And if they can just set aside the labels for a minute and just imagine the labels don't exist for a second, and then put the schools in a pot that match you, forget about the labels, and then just see if you can build relationship with those coaches.
I'm gonna tell an interesting story now because I think it's so amazing. I had a girl who she wanted to play at, like, the all the D1 schools like everyone else, and she was, like, kinda chasing them throughout the process and was just, like, getting frustrated it wasn't happening for her, and then she ended up actually committing to, a Division I JUCO program close by in Florida, so her parents get to see her play still for all 4 years. She's close to home, she can still work a job, she it has the school has the major she wants, and she actually just got a call today that she's getting a full ride. And this girl was elated. She was like, "I am getting, like, literally everything covered, like housing, food, books, like the whole thing, tuition." And she was like, "Erica, if I had continued to like chase these other schools, definitely wouldn't have gotten a full ride as much as this, or I might have even discontinued my soccer career because nothing was happening." And she is so happy how it, like, just finally all came together for her, and I was like, "This is it." Like, yes, like, this is an amazing story, an amazing ending, and yeah, it's just, like, one of those stories where I was like, "Wow," like, I think people need to hear that.
It is. I think that people do need to hear that, and I think it's don't kids don't understand that once you get onto your college team, once you start playing games, once you make friends with those girls, once you get your uniform, once you get into the routine and the rhythm and everything, your brain won't be thinking, yeah, but it's not D1. I can guarantee you your brain will not be thinking, yeah, but it's not D1. You're gonna think it's competitive. You're gonna feel like it's competitive. You're gonna feel like this is harder than youth. This is different. This is challenging to me. And 99% of the time, you're going to think this is fun. I think the
I've
kids,
actually heard that at the JUCO level, a lot of girls will arrive on campus for preseason and they're like, "Whoa, that was hard." Like, "This was way more intense than we ever thought." Like, "This is insane." And I've actually been talking to a few JUCO coaches recently, and they go out to the ECNL showcases, and I just found it interesting that some of them said, "Yeah, like, there's a lot of girls playing out there that we wouldn't even recruit to play at our schools." So that's how competitive it is at all levels. When I was recruiting at Johns Hopkins University, we had tons of ECNL girls out there. There were maybe only 2 or 3 at our ID camp of 80 girls that I actually thought could make an impact at the program. So it's competitive. It's not for everyone. Maybe you're a good player, but everyone is good. So how do you have an edge? And how are you going to be an impact player going into a college program? That's what coaches are looking for.
and keep in mind that I've got 5 or 6 clients from a team in Southern California that we've got as a client, as a company. I've handled a couple of them, but they are a non ECNL, non GA. They just play in their regional league. I just came back from an event in Northern California. It's just a regional league. Greater Chicago has one, right? I mean, all the big areas. There's regional leagues in Florida. There's all these regional, and there are studs tucked away in these regional leagues. And just talk with this team in Southern California. I was talking about. We got one girl that just committed to the Division II national champions. We got one that's was on a full ride at UNLV. Now she's at Lipscomb. We've got one of them plays for the NAIA national champions. We've got these high quality players that I think there's two or three other D1 girls on that team, by the way. You ECNL girls are competing against these girls too. You just don't see them. You don't ever get to play against
Yeah.
them. You don't get to run into them. But there's tens of thousands of them in this big country. Plus, there are now thousands of girls in other countries that want to come over here too. Girls have played.
Mhm.
We've got 3 clients that played for the Man United Youth System. So it's interesting to a college coach to at least see what these girls offer. They,
Don, I've
they are
I've heard that too. A lot of girls are overlooked in other leagues, and they're, like, absolute studs. And I've talked to a few other coaches about, like, why they're getting overlooked, and they think, "Oh, well, maybe, like, club politics and not making the top team for whatever reason, maybe just having, like, an injury or a bad year," but then they just blossom, and they're these studs during their recruiting years, and everyone's like, "Where did these girls come from?" So it happens. So it's competitive across leagues as well.
That's right. That's right. So everybody has to remember that look, the good news about ECNL is it kind of greases the skids. There's a lot of attention to it. The bad news is it's kind of isolated. So while coaches are out there looking at these other leagues and other events, remember I said I don't know what the number is. Somebody's can come up with the number. Somebody's going to hear this. Somebody in the ECNL group can give us the number or GA group. But like individual schools that are actually at even the biggest events, it's not 1,600. It's not 1,000. It's not even 750. I don't think it's even 500 schools individually. Like I said, you can say there's 500 college coaches, but what happens when Missouri State has 3 coaches?
Mhm.
It's really only one school being represented. It's just more eyes to spot more players. That's all. Which is fair. I'm not taking away. I'm just saying that there's a lot of other coaches scouting a lot of events at a lot of other places, and this is what we've done to our youth system is we've made it so that GA and ECNL will hold an event the same weekend to compete against each other because it's more important that the adults get their rocks off than it is that the coaches get to actually see all the kids. More important.
Mhm.
It's insane that these competitions want to go head to head with each other. And
Right.
then you've got all the other leagues that are sprinkled in all over the place and then trying to fit it in. It's like, I don't know, a staff of 50 probably couldn't cover all of the events in this. The kids are just too spread out. So, yeah, a lot of kids are going to be missed. And for those ECNL parents and ECNL kids, you're paying all this money. You've got no excuses. Go figure it out. The coaches are here. The problem is most of you are chasing the wrong schools. Almost always what it comes down to. Because we'll take ECNL kids that are number 15, 16 on their rosters that are getting no traction, and then we can get them traction of getting 20, 30, 40 offers. But we're guiding them. We're saying, look, you were going down that path, not the path you belong. You should be going down this path based on the kind of player you are. And all of a sudden, the traction will start picking up. If all the kids were chasing the right schools in the ECNL, none of them would need our none of them, not one of the kids who need our help as a company if they were all chasing the right schools for their abilities. Eyes on it. People know about it. It's just that a coach from, I don't know, Iowa, some Division II school, is not going to bother going after that kid because that kid has no interest in talking to that coach. Multiply that times 500, 600 coaches at schools.
So my question is, and this seems to be like the huge debate between all the parents, ECNL, GA, and just like all these clubs and leagues, but at the ECNL showcases, more likely for the powerhouse D1, D2, and D3 coaches to show up there.
There are certain games of certain teams, and you'll see 300 coaches lining the field for that game. Now, go 7 fields over, and there's zero coaches, zero, because they have no national team players. They have no true blue chip prospects. So just being part of that league isn't going to guarantee that anything happens for anybody at any time. But it does mean that the coaches are at that, a lot of coaches are at that complex at that time. Are they going to come over to see you? Not if you didn't give them a reason to. No, you have to give them a reason to ahead of time to come see you.
That was my next question. So, yeah, what's going to increase the chances of these, like, powerhouse schools coming to watch you? I'm assuming, like, mainly US youth national team and just, like, a higher ranking for your team, good record or anything else?
Well, having a national team player on your team will is a good starting point because then the coaches will come see her, and if you can score 3 bicycle kicks and 2 diving headers, it'll get noticed, right? And pick any skill set you want that's unusual. I don't know. I always use that silly joke. But the point is, if you stand out, you will get noticed. But if you, oh, look at her help us maintain possession. Ooh, look at that! She made a 6-yard pass. Ooh, she made a 10-yard pass. Ooh, she received a 15-yard ball. That's great. She touched the ball for a grand total of 1 minute and 30 seconds today. She scored no goals. She played, no combination play. She put no crosses into the box. She got 2 headers, 2 tackles, made 4 passes today. It's like, what is there to evaluate? If I look at every field out here, every girl is doing what you did today.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I think a lot of players think, "Well, I'm here, I'm at this showcase, and as long as I have, like, a good game and I'm solid, then, yeah, I'm gonna get seen." But no, you kinda have to do something spectacular and really stand out because everyone's playing good, you know?
And we can't just flip that light switch on. I mean, a player that tries to be spectacular today will probably be unsuccessful at being spectacular today and may even look foolish just because you're trying to be spectacular, trying to do things that don't exist. It has to be just part of you. At the end of the day, the marketplace is what determines where you belong. If you want to be at North Carolina, those are US national team level players. It's very simple. Go be on the national team. But I'm not good enough. And usually it's politics. I mean, 90% of the parents that you talk to, the reason the kid's not on the national team is politics. The reason their kid's not on the top ECNL team is politics. The reason their kid's not getting picked up for college is politics. It has nothing to do with their kid's ability or lack of ability. It's politics. I hear that a lot from parents, and it used to rile me. It doesn't even rile me. I just realized that's how a lot of parents feel. They truly feel that their child is special, special and more deserving than most, and the only reason they're not making it in life is because of politics. I think that's dangerous. I think that's a dangerous way to raise our children. It's blaming everybody else for the outcome of their lives. It's never their fault. It's never their responsibility. I didn't mean to get off on this tangent, but I really think that that's a part of this mixture. There's something going on societally that is not allowing the blinders to be lifted from parents' eyes to see the truth of comparing their child to another child and saying, well, my kid was playing soccer. It was very clear. Not an athlete. Wasn't. He ended up playing D1 because he worked his ass off and figured it out, and he took a gap year for 2 years. That made a big difference, massive difference. Came in as a 20-year-old freshman, made a big difference. On the men's side, this probably affects us more than it does on the women's side, just the way that men develop physically. Overall, I think that as parents, we have to be able to objectively see that my kid's not even the eighth best athlete on this team, not even the 10th best athlete on this team. Look what she can do compared to my kid. And my kid works really hard at it. Or my kid really doesn't even put in the hours, is the other way. And my kid doesn't even do all the extras. I had my son at 15 years old, he wanted to go to an Erica Sutter. in the Bay Area, and he started at 15 years old. Somebody told him it would be good for him. So he did it, and it helped. But it's all that extra work, right? If somebody's not even willing to put in all that extra time doing the thing that they say that they love so much, I don't think they love it that much.
I hear that a lot with the, well, it's politics or they just don't like my kid, it's personal. And maybe it is from time to time. I've seen some scenarios, okay, possibly, but I don't think the blaming and complaining works well. And I think it was Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens who said the famous quote, "Nobody cares, work harder." And I love that. You kind of have to just stop complaining because it's unproductive, and what can you be doing in that time to get better, refine your skills, ask your coach what you could work on, get your nutrition right, do speed and strength training, like do anything else instead of being like, well, I'm better than her, or I deserve to be here, or this coach doesn't like me, blah, blah, blah. Like nobody cares. Work harder. But I do also want to bring genetics into the conversation because girls who play for the US youth national team and who make it to these powerhouse schools and then who go on to play pro and have these amazing careers, it's a combination of the hard work, but good genetics. And we cannot rule out naturally gifted athletes. Some girls are fast, strong, they're robust, they can finish. They're number nines. Like they're naturally a number nine. And if you think that your daughter, who's a number 9, deserves to play at Florida State, you better watch Jordan, who was the freshman from last year who came in breaking records. You better watch her closely. Is my daughter her? And I really encourage parents to watch and get realistic with the level, but she's also just a freak athlete too. So it's a combination of the genetics and being good and working hard and dialing in on the things that other people aren't willing to dial in on.
Well, I would say genetics give us our baseline, right? They give us our baseline of what we are. Then once we come in and we establish our fitness baseline, so it's like I'm base fit. I'm base fit. I'm not 30 pounds overweight and I eat the right things and I can run a basic fitness test and I do okay on it. That's where the extra work really can kick in to take you to a certain level, but you're still going to hit a ceiling. You're still going to hit a ceiling. You can do everything right from the age of 10 years old to the age of 20. Never a mistake. Never eat the wrong thing. Never take a single day off. Never do anything. And it doesn't mean you're going to be as fast as Usain Bolt. It's not going to happen for 99.99999% of the people that don't have that genetic gift. It's never going to happen. You're always going to. And then when you run into an athlete who's a freak athlete who does half of what you do and still kicks your butt, that's the real reality. It's like they're not even trying
Yep.
and they're crushing me and I'm killing it and I can't catch them. I just can't.
Mhm.
At that point, you know where your level is. Why are you trying to go to Florida State? Why are you trying to go to Notre Dame? Why are you trying to go to Stanford? Why are you trying to go to North Carolina or Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever, Big Ten or SEC or Big 12 school or ACC school? Why are you trying to go to those when they all want that freak athlete who can play soccer? And they can find them, by the way. So even if you're lucky enough to make that roster, even if the coach says, and look, this part I've been preaching this one a lot privately to parents and telling them that maybe the first time I've said this publicly. You want to go to a school, go to the school. If you're a halfway decent soccer player and a really good person, and you will contribute to a team culture, and let's say you want to go to North Carolina, then go get into North Carolina. Go get accepted to North Carolina. Go enroll in classes at North Carolina, and then let that coach know I am here at North Carolina. I'm not going anywhere. Whether you take me or don't take me, it doesn't matter. I'm here at North Carolina. Now, that said, let me be part of the team. In fact, I'll just come pick up the cones for the first year if you want. Once you get to know those girls and if they like you, even if you're the team manager to start with, and they like you, show up early, knock a ball with them. Stay out late, knock a ball with them. They want to do free kicks, be their test dummy on the wall. let them bend balls around you. Let them just be involved. Eventually, one of the girls is going to go. I mean, hasn't anybody ever seen Rudy? Somebody's going to go, let her be on the team. She just wants to be part of the team. She's not going to bug us. We like her. She's a good kid. And she's not going to be a drill killer. She's going to help us in practice. All of a sudden, you're going to have a North Carolina uniform. Now, you may never play. In fact, you probably won't. In fact, if you walk into the coach's office and you ask them, what's it going to take to get my relaying done? They may say, give me my uniform back. It wasn't part of the deal. I let you be part of the team, but you can be part of the team. Not that you can't be part of the team. Nobody's saying you can't be part of the team at Stanford. If you get into Stanford, pay for Stanford, enroll at Stanford, you're a halfway decent soccer player and a good person. At some point, you in your 4 years, you might get a Stanford uniform. If not, go play club. Go play club. That's the other thing. Go play club at Wisconsin. Go play club at Stanford. Go play club at Berkeley. Go play club at UCLA. Go play club at North Carolina. They all have club teams. Go play club at Florida. You can still go to your dream school. If that's your dream school, go to your dream school. Stop telling kids don't go to your dream school. But you're not going to go to your dream school and play soccer.
Mhm.
And if you are, it's not as a starting player. It's as a role player capacity. And if you can't do that, you can play club soccer. I don't know why we act like there's only one solution to one problem.
Don, it's so funny you gave the UNC example and starting off as a team manager and then becoming on the team. That happened to a girl I used to coach. She got into the school. She transferred from a D3 program because she had always wanted to be a Tar Heel. She loved Anson. She loved the girls when she went on her trips there. And she finally got in academically and then transferred her sophomore year. Was a team manager at first because that was part of the deal between her and Anson. And then in the spring, she tried out, she did all the fitness tests, she went to all the practices and played with the team, and she got a spot on the roster for that next fall season, and she ended up getting some playing time. So, talk about such a great story, but she really put in the work and she took some risks, and it was a gamble for sure, but she was like, "You know what? I know myself. This is what I want to do and this is what I'm willing to try." And that was her story. But maybe another girl in that situation, maybe you get into UNC or UCLA or Stanford or your dream school, and your worst case scenario is being on the club soccer team. I mean, that kind of sounds like a great worst case scenario to me. Like, I don't know,
I've
like
got
it's
one
you
of my
get such a good
clients, Erica,
education,
going through it
it's your dream
right now.
school and you're playing.
Got one of my clients going through it right now. He got so the MIT's coach, that was his dream school was MIT. The coach said, I will sponsor your application. He didn't get selected by MIT. Uh, then he ended up going to committing to Case Western Reserve, which is a great academic school, good engineering, and then he got into Berkeley. And he said, "Well, it was my number three choice in the country was Berkeley, behind MIT and Stanford." And he says, "I'm in." So everything changed, and we've got him a hold of the assistants, and he's talking to the assistants now, and he's going to figure it out. But I can guarantee you, he will end up on their roster this year. Guarantee you, because he's a decent player. He's not going. He may not be their starter. Nobody said he was, but he's really decent, and he's a great kid and will not ask for money, doesn't need money, and doesn't really need anything from the coaching staff, just wants to be part of the program. And he has said, I will play club if I have to. It's fine. I think those compromises it comes back to what we're talking about with compromises, right? Can get us to where we want to be. But if we, if we're, seems to me that everybody wants an ironclad guarantee. I want you to ironclad guarantee me that I've got a spot on your team and that I'll be playing before I commit to your school. And I think we've got it backwards. I really think kids need to go where they're happy. And if playing time is heavily weighted, then this problem might not be at those top schools. If being at that top school is heavily rated because it's a great academic school, like Berkeley in this case, then that's academics weighed out over him playing soccer. But that's probably going to make him happiest. He knows himself really well. I just think it's really important that kids are honest with themselves.
That's great for him, and getting into a school like that is not everyone can do that, and that's something he should be really proud of, and if that happens to other players listening to this, you get into your dream school academically, then that is a huge accomplishment. Like, that should be posted all over the club Instagram pages and like, they got into this school academically, this was their GPA, here's what they're majoring in, like, it's just so incredible to get to that point, and then, look, if you wanna give it a shot to try and get on the team, why not? But your worst case scenario is you're at your dream school academically, which there's something amazing to be said about that.
That's right. That's right. This is the part that's going to last for the next 50 years.
Mm.
The schooling piece. The soccer's going to last 4 more years, then it's over.
Well, Don, this was more than we planned out for, but we really got into it. And I think this is just a lot of great information for people to think on and really wrestle with. It's really all about the right fit and just going where you can see yourself being the happiest. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. I don't think anyone has the perfect college situation, but just really look at your big rocks and then what you're willing to compromise on. I think that's what we agree on every time when we have these discussions. Is there anything else you would end with, Don?
No, way more than we thought. You and I both got onto this thinking that we didn't have 5 minutes worth of a conversation here, and then it took off. No, and we've started a new consultant piece of our business. By the way, parents can now just hire us by the hour. So if they want us to look at the totality of their kids' situation, and then get to meet their kid, hear what their kid wants, and then hear what the parents want, then we can kind of recommend what direction they should be going, so that they don't waste their time going to the wrong camps at the wrong schools, but instead spend that valuable sophomore, junior, senior year time going to the right coaches of the right schools that are more likely a fit for them. So we can do that for people now just on an hourly basis.
I really like that you added that because sometimes that's what people need. They just need that 1 hour deep dive so that they're going in the right direction at least and it's efficient and they're not wasting that time and money. So I'll include your links in the caption below. And then I'll also include all of our other episodes. If you're someone who just wants to consume all the free content, you can make that choice too and do that. And maybe that's all you need. But if you want to work with Don and do all the great things that he's doing, and his staff is absolutely incredible. Be sure to check out the links below, and we really hope this helps. So, Don, thank you again, and I'll see everyone on the next episode.
Right on, and I love your jersey.
Thank you. Go Netherlands. If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
Right on, love it. Okay, take care.